I was to ask you a question, like, are you watching me right now? Like, do you believe that you are watching me? Are you watching me on any device, on a screen? How do you come to believe something? How does that work? You are your consciousness. You're not your mind, you're not your body, you're not your feelings, and you're not your thoughts. You're in this 3D reality driving this vehicle, and this vehicle has ways that it works. It has different systems. One of them is your belief system. What requires you to believe something, most people think that it's fact, like, or evidence. But what is fact and evidence? Fact is if I can prove it, and if we want to get down to it, like, how can we actually prove something? We need to gather data? Do we need to do tests? And if we don't have an understanding of something, how can we prove it? So the belief system is actually very unique to you. It's extremely subjective to what you believe. We can see this with religion. So, for example, humans all over the world that carry a belief system truly believe different things. A lot of people believe that God is a certain type of being, a certain type of person, has a certain type of rules or something like that. And other people in the world believe very differently. And other people believe that there is no God. So what we do is we use fact to choose what we believe. Without unknowingly, we can use fact, but it's not always facts. But again, beliefs aren't based on facts. That's not how our system works. You can have someone who isn't mentally stable that would truly believe, like, for example, that coffee table or that table there, they would truly believe that that table is a lion if they're mentally unstable. Now, that's their belief system, and they would truly, truly believe that. But we would know, and we know, that it's not a lion. It's a table. Elephant keepers in India, when elephants are infants, they're just born, what they do is they tie their legs to a tree stump. And when they're infants and young, they can't actually escape from that. So they know that they're stuck there, essentially tied up. Now, these elephants grow older and older, and they get to a certain age and to a certain size that they would easily be able to rip that tree stump out of the ground. But they don't, because they have been conditioned and they believe that they can't move the tree stump. So even in the moments where they easily could, their belief system tells them otherwise. So it's important to know that we can actually change a belief. Whatever belief you have based on your belief system can be changed. The really, really big benefit of all of this, and the reason we're talking about beliefs, is because knowing what a belief is, knowing that you carry a belief and that is a belief, actually takes you out of that place of being the belief. Now, once you understand that you can change a belief, and once you recognize what belief you might be carrying, what you actually do is you can start observing that belief. And when you go into observing mode, you're taking yourself out of it, and you're actually vibrating at a very different frequency at that point as well. If I'm in a certain belief that's actually making me feel a certain way, whether it's like fear, anxiety, anger, or whatever, once I recognize that that's just a belief, I am not that belief anymore. I am separate from it. And you go into the observer mode. So that's a very, very big, important part to know. So what is a belief, essentially? What like actually is a belief and what's going on in the system for these beliefs to be created. Now, if you've ever been to, if you ever came to my Becoming the New You meditation, I talk about thoughts a lot. That meditation is very, very much focused on thoughts. Now, if you have a thought in your mind, that's a neuron, it's a neural pathway firing and wiring. If you have that thought again, that same pathway strengthens more and more. Now, there are other, so once you have these thoughts, and you can have multiple thoughts, it's not just the one thought. If you have one kind of thought, the pathway strengthens, another kind of thought, the pathway strengthens, and all of these thoughts are there as separate pathways. Now, if you do something through repetition, it becomes a habit. Like, for example, if you've ever learned to drive a car, if you get in the car and what you're doing is you move your body through your thoughts. So if I want my arms to go up and down, I'm actually thinking for them to go up and down. Now, when I get in the car and I'm driving and my hands are at 10 and 2, when I'm learning how to drive the car and I'm consciously looking in the mirrors, these are thoughts that are playing over and over again. But the mere act of getting in the car and driving and doing these motions over and over again through thoughts, what it's actually doing is it's giving those neural pathways more and more. It's giving those neural pathways more and more energy. So now I keep backing up those neural pathways. And when I do it through repetition, eventually it becomes a habit. So the neural pathways are so strong that now when I go to drive, I just get in and my body takes over. I don't need to consciously think about it anymore. When we think about something and it becomes a habit, it moves into our subconscious. So I can actually get in the car and do the same act, and I can talk to someone. I can kind of look at my sat nav. I can put the music on and my body just takes over because it's a habit happening in the background. Now, if you've had, which we all have had, experiences in your life growing up, especially in our childhood, where we were scolded. If a child was angry or a child was sad and they were trying to show that emotion, but that emotion wasn't acceptable by their caregiver, the caregiver would essentially attempt to discipline them. Now, this discipline would come with rejection, and along with that, there could be some scolding. Now, when that happens, we're mostly told that we shouldn't feel the way that we do. So, if a child is angry, and a parent, a caregiver might say, "No, that's not okay. Like, you don't need to be angry. You shouldn't be angry." So, what we do in that moment, as the child looking at our caregiver, and our caregivers are the gods of our reality. Without them, we're nothing. We can't survive without them. And we biologically know this, and we biologically feel this. So in that moment, the God of my reality is telling me that I shouldn't feel the way that I do. Even though I know that deep down, that is how I feel. So in that moment, what I do is I give meaning to this situation. I give meaning to myself. So if I shouldn't feel the way that I know that I feel, then that must mean that there's something wrong with me. That's my meaning. That's my thought. I must be broken. Clearly, I'm not good enough. These are the meanings and thoughts. Now, we go through so many experiences in our lives where we get scolded and we get told that we shouldn't feel the way that we do. And just like driving the car, we back these thoughts up. We back these neural pathways up. And they get stronger and stronger and stronger. And when a neural pathway gets so strong that it becomes a habit, just like the act of driving a car, if I think over and over again that there's something wrong with me, that I'm broken, that I'm not good enough, now that becomes a belief. That is what a belief is. A belief is a thought that's thought over and over again. So much so that the neural pathway is so strong that it becomes a habit that just fires off without any effort. Just the same way as we get in the car and we're effortlessly driving. And what I mean by effortlessly, obviously we're putting the energy into moving our body, but we're not putting effort into thinking about it. Just the same way as you're understanding every single word that I'm saying now, all of this understanding is coming from your subconscious. You're not putting effort into it of like going, oh, what's that word mean? Oh, what's that word mean? Oh, what does that word mean? It's effortless to you. You're understanding everything that I'm saying. So now these beliefs are firing off effortlessly. Now, if I consciously think I'm not good enough, and I truly like think that like all the time. If I'm consciously saying to myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm going to feel that. I'm going to feel like really bad. I'm gonna, oh fuck, like I'm not good enough. Like, damn, that's really gonna make me feel bad. So the reason why we kind of feel overwhelmed and out of control is because we have so many subconscious beliefs that are firing and wiring all day, every day. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of our thoughts are in the subconscious. 95% of the thoughts that we're thinking that are habitual, that are giving energy to the neural pathways that have created the beliefs that I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I'm not worthy, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, I'm rejected. All of these are firing daily. They are the main causes of why we feel the way we do. Our beliefs are what create our reality. If I believe I'm not good enough, then I'm not good enough. Now, your mind will actually look for evidence of what you feed it. And we've all experienced this, like whether you buy a new car or maybe your parents have bought a new car or your friend or your partner or someone has bought a new car. Let's say they buy a Ford Focus. And then you're going to see like a Ford Focus more often. Like when you're driving, you'll be on the motorway and you'll see a Ford Focus. You're walking down the road and you see a Ford Focus and you'll be like, oh my, I see that car more now. It's because your mind, you've already fed that information to your mind that this is a new car. And now your mind is literally looking for evidence of that. So it shows you there's another Ford Focus. And you're like, ah, there it is. Your mind does the exact same thing with these types of thoughts. So because we have these habitual thoughts that are beliefs firing in the subconscious, your mind is going to show you and make you look for evidence to back up what you're believing. So if I believe I'm not good enough, my mind is actually looking for evidence of why I'm not good enough. You could go throughout your day and you can have loads of examples of where you are good enough. And you can have one example where you may have not achieved something that you want or something didn't turn out the way you want. And because of the way that we've been programmed and because of our life experiences and because of these beliefs, we fixate on that one thing that we're going to use to prove to ourselves that we are not good enough. Because that's how we work. That's the mind is trying to show you what you believe about yourself, because that's the information inside of it. So essentially, what to do from here. Now, I could there's so many there's many exercises that we can do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the things that I believe that would be very helpful as a starting point in order to try and heal these parts of yourself. Now, in terms of where these thoughts are getting their energy from in our subconscious, where these beliefs are getting the energy from our subconscious, we have aspects of ourselves that have been created in those moments where we were scolded, in those moments, in any moment that a human being experiences distress without any resolution. The survival mind kicks in and you go into survival mode. And when you're in survival mode and your environment isn't set up and has no ability for anyone to emotionally be there for you, the only way that you stay safe in that moment is you dissociate. And when you dissociate, you experience a split in the consciousness. And this is what creates aspects. And as a way to survive, as a way to understand, okay, this is how I'm going to survive, maybe it might be an aspect of you that's angry, continuing on the example of earlier. And then what we do is we learn that it's not okay to be angry. So we reject that aspect of ourselves. And we put that aspect in the subconscious. And we take on the other aspect that's not angry, that's compliant, that's not necessarily the truth of us, but we've learned that this aspect is acceptable. So I'm not, and this is where we become less authentic. Because the aspect that we reject is the aspect of us that we've learned is not acceptable. Now, that aspect that we've put in our subconscious is the one that is feeding that meaning to these beliefs in our subconscious. Because if I wasn't denied and pushed away as an aspect, then I'd be good enough. But because I'm being denied and I'm being pushed away, I'm not good enough. So I'm going to carry on having these thoughts and carry on giving meaning to strengthen this belief. So what I want you to do is essentially, your feelings are a feedback system. It's a guidance system. It's literally there to show you whether you're in or out of alignment with your natural state. When you feel the lower vibrational emotions like anger, fear, apathy, shame, guilt, jealousy, when you're feeling anxiety as well, anxiety itself is not an emotion. It's a mask of a suppressed emotion. So there's always an emotion under it. But when you're feeling like the lower vibrational emotions, it's trying to get your attention to look at something. Now, in those moments when you're feeling these low vibrational emotions, I want you to ask yourself, how are you feeling? We actually create, again, a habit, an unconscious pattern. Throughout our lives, we're being told we shouldn't feel the way we do, and we don't necessarily enjoy feeling the undesirable emotions. So we've actually become really good at not feeling. We've learned that feeling and showing emotions isn't safe, so I'm just not going to feel it. So there's an element of learning how to feel again. So whenever you feel something, I just want you to sit with it. And I want you to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And then it will come to you. This is how you work. And when you put a name to that feeling, and what I also want you to do is I want you to recognize the difference between feeling an emotion or feeling something. Because I could feel confused, but confused isn't an emotion. So I could feel like I don't want to get on stage, but not wanting to get on stage is not an emotion. The reason I don't want to get on stage is because I feel fear. So I want you to recognize the feeling, that the emotion that you're feeling. What is the emotion I'm feeling in this moment? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it apathy? Is it despair? Is it jealousy? And then I want you to work out, based on what's happened right now that made you feel that, what is the meaning that you're giving to it? If someone blanks me, so if I text someone and I see that they've read the message but they've not texted me back, and then I would feel maybe anger, let's say. And it's like, all right, well, I just felt anger. What happened? I messaged them, they didn't message me back. Okay, what did I make that mean? Them not messaging me back, what did I make that? And there is no right or wrong. It doesn't mean that, oh, you shouldn't have made it mean that. Like, not at all. Like, there is no right or... When it comes to how you feel, it's a feedback system. It's literally showing you emotional wounds that you have. So there is no logical right or wrong. There is no you should have made it mean that or not. Like, it's a feedback system. So whether that person did this on purpose or not is irrelevant. I've made it mean, because they've not messaged me back, I've made that mean that I'm not good enough. Because if they had messaged me back, then I'd be good enough. But they're treating me like I'm just nothing. And that's what I've made it mean. It doesn't matter if that person is just too busy and haven't had the chance, but they do think you're glad. All of that is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's about how you feel and what meanings you're giving it. So, once you understand that meaning, that's when you get to the belief. I've made it mean that I'm not good enough. That is your belief. I'm not good enough. I have a belief that I am not good enough. And then in that moment, I want you to recognize that you are not that belief. That you are separate from that belief. And I want you to recognize that this is just a belief. It's not like, I'm not going to invalidate it and be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. This is how we work. But know that there is a separation. Know that this is just a programming in your being. My being has been programmed this way. So these scenarios where I have people behaving this way towards me, it makes me feel and think these thoughts, which makes me believe these thoughts as well. It makes me believe what I'm believing. Do that as much as you can. Those steps. Get used to using your feelings as a feedback system. Get used to seeing your emotions differently to the way that you have your entire life. What we tend to do is well, that's how I felt. I was just feeling that and then moving on. Your feelings are a feedback system. The emotions are a guidance system. It's trying to give you information. Through the information of exploring how I felt when someone didn't message me back, I recognized and brought to my awareness that I have an unconscious belief where I'm not good enough. This is what healing is. This is your journey. And the awareness alone is huge. It's massive on your healing journey. Now, to change a belief, like to get really in the nitty-gritty of changing a belief, it's not like you can just wipe away a belief. You can't just, we have all these neural pathways that are firing and wiring. It's not like you can just delete them. So what we need to do is we need to stop giving energy to those beliefs. Now, remember, we said that they're in our subconscious and we're feeding a lot of energy to these beliefs with the aspects that we have. So the main healing method, essentially, is to learn how to heal and integrate aspects, which obviously is more than just like a couple of sentences of how you do that. It's a big, big topic. And simultaneously, pretty sure I said that right, create a new thought to think. So, and back it up with evidence. So if my belief that I'm not good enough, and I'm recognizing that these are beliefs, I'm also going to, on a daily basis, show myself how I am good enough. So you can literally whenever you recognize that I have a belief, maybe one of them is I'm not good enough. Maybe tomorrow I realize that I also have a belief that I'm abandoned, I'm rejected, I'm unlovable. And then what I want you to do is I just want you to like write that as a title. So if I have a belief where I'm not good enough, write as a title, I am good enough. And then write examples of how you are good enough. Like it can be anything. It can be I'm a great cook. Like I'm a really good parent. Like I'm very kind to people and I help people. Like whatever it is. Just the same way as your mind, when you feed your mind information and it tries to show you evidence of the information that you feed it, this is what we're trying to do. We're essentially reprogramming. You're a being that works in a specific way. You program yourself. The experiences that you have in this lifetime, we give meaning to, which is what the programming is. Now, other people can absolutely have influence on how we are programmed, but we're still programming ourselves. So someone might force me to do something which is influencing that program, but you have the power to reprogram yourself. You've never been taught that you are a vehicle, essentially. You have a vehicle that you're driving in that works a specific way. So we have to, your healing journey is to learn how to actively reprogram, relearn some things, unlearn some things, learn new things. So this is your healing journey. You know, what we've always been shown throughout our lives is we go externally to get healed. There's an issue, got to go to the doctor to get the pill, to get the medicine, whatever's external. But especially when it comes to your emotional wounds, only you can do it. Recognize that you are more than just what you think you are. You are a being that's a vehicle that has rules and how it works, and you have the hands on the wheel. So doing the work and coming up with these lists, recognizing what a belief is, learning how we work and everything, this is the healing journey. This is how you can get to a place where you wake up in the morning and you are really, really happy and really excited and filled with energy. Pills are not going to get you there. It's doing the work and it's learning how we work. Now, when we create that new belief, it's very, very important to know that there are moments where we will look at that list to show ourselves how we are good enough. But we also need to make sure that we're not fully just completely ignoring the thoughts that are coming from the old belief, because those emotions and those thoughts and everything carry the message of what aspects need to be healed. So it's kind of like a simultaneous working of learning how to heal and reintegrate aspects, as well as creating evidence of to counteract the beliefs that they carry. So we need to make sure that we're doing that both at the same time, because if we just concentrate on this, and if we just concentrate on creating a list of how we are good enough and things like that, then what we can kind of, it's very easy to get down the rabbit hole of distracting ourselves from the information. And distraction is a coping mechanism, and all coping mechanisms are going in the opposite direction to healing. So we need to make sure that we're doing these together. We're not just trying to convince ourselves and trying to prove to ourselves that this isn't what it is.